Low network collect. Oh, cancel. Um, okay, let me. I think we have a low connection, but let's see what happens. Okay. Anyhow, I talking about three movies today because three movies. Actually, I think more than three movies opened yesterday, but I only saw three, which is plenty. First one I'm going to talk about is a Japanese film called Lying to Mom, and um, interesting film. It's about suicide. It's sort of a comedy drama about suicide, and you might think, wow, that's weird. Now, it's interesting that some cultures deal with suicide better than others. And, everybody talks about how high Japan's suicide rate is compared to other developed countries. I suppose it is. It's not much higher than America, apparently. Um, but I think as far as developed countries, it is pretty high. Um, and they have a very long tradition of suicide. Military suicide, seppuku, and seppuku. So the Japanese are relatively tolerant towards the subject. So I would think at any rate, that some Japanese filmmaker would have already have explored how suicide impacts families, the way, let's say, the 1980 film Ordinary People did. But it hasn't happened, to the best of my knowledge. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But I don't think it's happened. So, there have been many Japanese films about dealing with suicide, but they've pretty much been horror films. And the most famous of them was a 2001 film called Suicide Club, which I've never seen, but it's supposed to be good. Now, in his feature debut, writer-director Katsumi Nojiri, he's decided to go against the norm, and he's decided to tackle the family angle. So, as I said, I don't think anybody in Japan has ever done this before. But rather than playing it straight, he mines the subject for a few laughs. He goes for the comedy, not throughout, but a fair bit of. If you watch the trailer, you think the whole thing is a comedy. It's not, but part of it is supposed to be funny. But to this gaijin's sensibilities, it pretty much doesn't work. Sometimes it works, but mostly it doesn't work. Now, the story is that we have Koichi Suzuki. He's played by Ryo Kasei, who was in the film Letters to Iwo Jima, the Clint Eastwood film, which I'll have to watch again to see which one he is. But anyhow, he's a 30-something, what's called a hikikomori. This is Japanese expression. The Japanese have very interesting expressions. It's a shut-in. It's basically somebody who's cut himself off from the world and stays inside all day. So he's been hiding out in his parents' in his bedroom in his parents' cramped home, or in his cramped bedroom, his parents' home, whichever you want to look at it. And one clear winter morning, he commits suicide there. And he leaves his doting mother, Yuko, played by Hideko Hara, who was in Shall We Dance. I'll have to watch that film again to see where she is, to find his body. Now, she is so shocked, though, that she has a stroke, and she faints and loses her memory. And when she wakes up 49 days later, her daughter, Fumi, played by Mai Kiryu, I don't know, I've never seen her before, the daughter tells her that while she was in a coma, Koichi, the son, stopped being a recluse and went off to Argentina to work for Yuko's brother, Hiroshi. Now, grateful that Yuko is alive and happy, her husband Yukio, played by Itoku Kishibe, who was in Sakura Garden of the North, a film that I just thought was horribly awful. Long, long, long film and boring. So he's happy that she's alive, and she seems happy. His highly opinionated sister Kimiko maybe less so, but they agreed to go along with this ruse, to help Yuko. However, the family members quickly realize that they have to come up with more elaborate schemes to keep the truth hidden from Yuko, and predictably, their house of lies eventually crumbles. That's what the story's about. Now, I'll give the director props for going where few, if any, Japanese filmmakers have gone before. But this script needed a lot more work for me to be able to call this a success. There's a good story here. As I'm watching this film, I'm not liking the film a whole lot, but I'm thinking there's a good story here. There's a germ of a story here. And as I was, thinking about it in my head, I'm thinking, well, it might end up being a cross between the German film Goodbye Lenin and the American film While You Were Sleeping, um, which may or may not be good or bad, I don't know, but that's not what we have here. There's a few subplots about how Fumi and Yukio, the daughter and the husband, they dealt with Koichi's depression both before and how they deal with it now that he's dead. But it seems that they've been crowbarred into the script for dramatic effect. I always find this very interesting. And Hong Kong films are the same. That Japanese, Korean, Hong Kong, these people just explode, like they'll be boo, and boom, they explode, and then they're okay again, and boom, they explode. I don't know that that's real, you know. But anyhow, this is what happens here. Is like Fumi explodes, in rage over something that she is over some unfinished business that let's just say unfinished business that she had with her brother. Now, so I think that story, okay, it's interesting, but it doesn't go anywhere. And also the father, he's trying to, I don't want to reveal, but he's trying to find a person. I don't want to reveal. He's trying to find a person, and that doesn't go anywhere either. It's sort of, it's leading somewhere, but it doesn't really go anywhere. So, I was disappointed that, okay, you're gonna throw these two subplots in, and they don't go anywhere. On the other hand, this movie is 134 minutes long. I'm thinking, thank God he didn't go anywhere, because then it would have been a 6-hour movie. So maybe it's good that he didn't go there. But anyhow, and the other big problem I have with this film is that you think it's going to end, like it's sort of coming to this logical conclusion after about 2 hours, and it doesn't. It's like it just goes on, and then it comes to another logical conclusion, and then it doesn't. It just goes on again, and it just runs for it's not even 2 hours. It's like an hour and a half, and so it runs like 2.25 hours in total. So, he needed his editor, or his editor needed to say to him, whatever. Somebody needed the studio. Somebody needed to say to him, you need to cut this film, but didn't happen. So, not a great film. With any luck, I'd say somebody in Japan, a filmmaker, will pick up the baton and come with a good comedy that deals about comedy drama, let's say, that deals with suicide. This isn't the film. So this is called Lying to Mom. I thought had potential, didn't deliver, not a great film. Second film that opened, I keep thinking this is Friday, so opened yesterday, is the Netflix film called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. If you're living in North America, you're saying, hey, I've seen this already. It's been on Netflix for ages. Yeah, I know, but it hasn't come to Hong Kong. It opened in the cinema yesterday. I say it'll probably last 1 week, maybe 2 at most, and then it'll come to Netflix in Hong Kong. So that's why I'm reviewing it. So this is the story of Ted Bundy, the famous American serial killer that has captured the imagination of people the way no other serial killer has had before him and has since. You think of Charles Manson. Okay, he's got a lot of public imagination. Albert DeSalvo, the Boston Strangler, David Berkowitz, Son of Sam. None of these guys, and I was trying to think, I think John Wayne Gacy perhaps comes close. None of these guys had Ted's good looks, charm, and intelligence. And he was just like the antithesis of the others, except for maybe John Wayne Gacy. But he was the ideal killer because he was able to fool everyone, including his girlfriend and the woman who later became his girlfriend, and he eventually married Carol Ann Boone. He fooled his mother. Well, mothers are easy to fool. And he fooled his rich white friends in the Washington State Republican Party. Why does that sound so familiar? The only person he didn't fool was his girlfriend at the time, Elizabeth Cloffer, I think her name is, yeah. She recognized him from a police artist sketch that was published at the time in the Seattle papers. But even she had doubts about the man that she had once hoped to marry, the man who was so kind to her daughter, and she slept with. And she made contact with Bundy even during his trial in Colorado for the murder of Karen Campbell. Now, so even, she's not so, you know, clear of blame here, Now, the film is directed by Joe Berlinger. Berlinger or Berlinger? I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile. The title is it comes from a statement that the judge at Ted Bundy's final trial in Florida said to him when he passed a sentence on him. And it's based on Clougher's memoir called The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy, that she penned under the pseudonym Elizabeth Kendall. And in fact, in the movie, she's called Elizabeth Kendall. And this movie is one half of a two-part exploration, or maybe it's a re-exploration, of Bundy by Berlinger, who's better known for his documentaries, such as Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, which is about the West Memphis Three. If you don't know about the West Memphis Three, I reviewed a film like about 5 years ago called Devil's Knot. Not a good film, but you can read about West Memphis 3 in my review of Devil's Knot on my website. Now, there's a 4-part companion documentary called Conversation with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. It's available now on Netflix in North America. Again, not available here in Hong Kong. I've seen it. I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, now the first half of Extremely Wicked provides audiences with a new perspective of Bundy. He's played by Zac Efron. Do I need to say what movies he's in? Everybody knows who he is. And we see him through Kendall's eyes. And Kendall is played by Lily Collins, who was in a great indie movie last year, 2 years ago, called To the Bone, about a woman who suffers from anorexia nervosa. She's very skinny. She's really, well, yeah, she's skinny. As events move the story away from Seattle, though, she's basically moved into the background. And what happens is Berlinger has to now change the focus of his story from her to him. And then really, at that point, the film becomes not so different from any of the other films that there have been on Ted Bundy. And there's at least 6 of them already. So, I was watching this film going, okay, Efron is good, he's doing it well, but we've seen this before. We know this story. There was nothing new to this story. Like the first half, yeah, this is new because it's her story. Now it becomes his story, and it's nothing new. It's good, but it's nothing new. So I think, and even, I'll give him a little bit of credit. What he tried to do, he tried to bring the focus back to her whenever he could. Like we learned about her alcohol abuse. We learned about her relationship with her co-worker, Jerry Thompson, played by Haley Joel Osment, the little boy who's not so little anymore from The Sixth Sense. But it's far less interesting than Ted Bundy's story because he was such a charismatic person. So, didn't quite work. So that being said, it didn't really work for me, but it's far superior to another. There was, a made-for-TV movie in 1986 starring Mark Harmon, who also played Ted Bundy. It's far superior to The Deliberate Stranger, as that film was called, but that's really not a high bar to jump over. That was so cheesy, really, really cheesy film. But it's interesting, you read the reviews from back then, 1986, and the reviews were all like raving about Mark Harmon's performance. Okay, it was good, but they were all raving about the production and everything. You watch it today, 33 years later, it is so cheesy, really cheesy. So maybe in 33 years, we're going to look back at this film and say, God, this is cheesy. But I thought it wasn't. So as I said, Zac Efron delivers a great performance. I thought, here's a guy, he's got such a beautiful, he's a good-looking guy, let's be honest. And with a good body, and he's got a teeny bopper image, teeny idol image, and he's really trying to shed that image. So I think good for him for taking on this role, and he did a good job. I don't want to take anything away from him. He did a good job. But I'd say many critics are upset because he actually, he might do too good a job. He and Berlinger, they make Ted Bundy into a very sympathetic, likable character. And you have to remind yourself, hey, this guy was a predator. He was a mass murderer. We shouldn't be liking him. But the point is, and I'm with Berlinger on this one. The point is, is that he had a legion of adoring female fans who were proclaiming his innocence even as the evidence was piling up against him. So I think what Berlinger was trying to do was put us in the position of all these women who were just falling in love with him because he was so handsome and articulate and intelligent. So I didn't have a problem with that at all. So, I thought there was good. There was good. Now about the documentary that I mentioned that's playing on Netflix in North America. It's a much better to me. That's a much better production or result than this film because you get to learn more about Ted Bundy than it goes into the inner workings of Ted Bundy rather than the exterior of Ted Bundy. So maybe they go well together, but I preferred the documentary over this one. It's not to say I didn't enjoy I didn't like this one. I thought it was okay. It wasn't great. It didn't offer me anything really that I didn't already know before. So as I said, it opened in Hong Kong yesterday in the movie theaters. It won't be here long. It'll be on Netflix in the next week or two. So my advice is wait it out or go watch the docuseries. It's better. So that's called Extremely Wicked and Shockingly Evil and Vile. So that's the next Netflix film. Third film opened yesterday is called Ma, which also I think it's already played in the States. Opened here yesterday. It's the horror thriller starring, of all people, Octavia Spencer. I give her huge props for wanting to do this film because this really goes against everything that she's done before. But apparently she's retamed up with director Tate Taylor, who she worked with on The Help. She got an Oscar for that film. That film now is at the time, many people were saying what a great film it was. I think now people have re-examined that film and said it's a whitewash. And I think even she said that too. But they're back together again, and she wanted to do this role. It was originally written for a white woman. She wanted to do this role because she says there have not been any horror thriller films with leading black women. Well, that's not right. There's us. So I don't know how she could say that, but maybe she started her film. Maybe her film was made first before us. Maybe that's why she's saying it. But here in Hong Kong, us came out first. So anyhow, good for her for taking this role on, and she does a great job. Now, the story is there's divorced mom Erica Thompson, played by Juliette Lewis, who is in August Osage County, and her teenage daughter Maggie, played by Diana Silvers, who was in Booksmart. Diana Silvers is sort of becoming the little it girl in Hollywood. She, with these 2 films now, I think she's in very high demand. They're seen heading back to Erica's hometown in Ohio to start the next chapter in their lives. I think they were living, I want to say San Diego, somewhere in California, and they're going back to Erica's hometown in Ohio. Now, while Erica busies herself in her new job as a waitress at a local casino, now I'm going to stop right there because I thought, wait, why are you going all the way from California to Ohio to work in a casino when you could have worked in a casino in Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas? There are lots of casinos between California and Ohio. It's not like she was going back because her mother and father were still there. There's your brother and sister, whatever. There's nobody there. So I didn't get why she was going back. It didn't make sense to me. Okay. But anyhow, they're going back. She's working as a waitress in the local casino. And Maggie, she easily falls in with the cool kids at school, the popular kids at school. And one day when Maggie's hanging out with her new friends, they decide they want to ask an adult to buy them some alcohol so they can go drink it at an abandoned work site. Now, they find Sue Ann Ellington, played by Octavia Spencer, and she's this dowdy veterinarian assistant. She walks around in her scrubs with little cat print scrubs, and she agrees to do it on the condition that they do their drinking in her basement instead of going outside. She comes off as trying to be, hey, I know I'm doing something wrong, but I want to be responsible for you, and come to my basement instead and drink. So the kids, they're a little bit leery, but they say, oh, okay, let's do it. And they agree, and everything goes really well in the beginning, but it doesn't take long before Sue Ann's needy behavior starts getting the kids slightly concerned. however, not concerned enough because the lure of this seemingly safe environment to do their underage drinking, away from parental authorities, away from the police, is just too precious to them until it isn't. And particularly for Maggie, who starts to unravel Sue-Ann's true motivation for wanting to be popular with the cool kids. So that's what the film's about. Now, Ma is a lot more enjoyable than it has any right to be, thanks to Spencer's performance. You know, I just thought this is a better performance than it is a script. So it didn't deserve her for one, but she really elevated the film far higher than it deserved. So she was fabulous. She's able to go from warm and friendly to menacing with just a look. She's just like, just a look in her eyes, boom, she goes. And then boom, she changes back. She was fabulous. The script is garbage. The script is by a fellow by the name of Scotty Landis. He worked on a TV show called Workaholics, which I've never even heard of. It really doesn't do her immense talent justice. It seems like it's a first draft. It has so many holes in it. It has more holes in it than a golf course. As I said, there's the business about why is she going back to Ohio when there's plenty of casino jobs. It's not like she's in high tech and she's got to go back to the high tech center. She's a waitress. There's plenty of waitress jobs between California and Ohio. So that didn't make sense. There was the whole question about the kid, Sue-Ann is, she follows all these kids on their Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, and, they try to block her, and, come on, like, kids are smart when it comes to technology. They know how to put in privacy controls. For some reason, none of these kids put on privacy controls. So, that was ridiculous. There's a whole question about how not one adult in this small town knows about Sue-Ann's basement parties, which seem to take place on school nights. And judging from the kids' sheer volume of Instagram and Snapchat posts, this should have been national news. This should have gone viral, and yet nobody outside of the kids in the high school seemed to know about this. It's just, so to me, there's like so many plot holes. But the bigger problem is when it starts going wacko in the third act. These films all go wacko. Nothing wrong with that. But when it starts going wacko in the third act, it doesn't go far enough. There's place. It needed to like go over the cliff. And what happened was the director would take us right to the edge and then pull us back, and take us right to the edge and then pull us back. No. You cannot do that. You have to go all the way. So that was really disappointing. There's scenes where she's almost about to do something and then she doesn't. Or there's scenes where she does something and we don't see it. We only see the after effect of what she's done. So no. Didn't work. So I'd say in that respect it was disappointing. But as a whole, I enjoyed it. Gotta say, I enjoyed this film, and so did my audience. There was laughter and there was wincing as you see what she's doing, you go ooh, and then you laugh at what she's doing. It's a little bit weird that you're laughing at let's call it torture porn, but I think it's an enjoyable film because of her. So my advice is, if you're going to go see this film, lower your expectations way down because the script is garbage. But she is fantastic, and the kids actually are really good too. I thought the kids did a really good job. So that's my review of Ma. It's an okay film. It should have been a whole lot better than what it was, but it's okay. So we have Lying to Mom, garbage, Extremely Wicked. It's okay, but wait till you watch it on TV. Wait for it to come to Netflix. And Ma, I'd say go in, low expectations. That's it. Out. Have a great weekend and a great week. See ya.